Whoever said personal finance is easy is clearly not seeing the whole point. Hi everyone, I'm PPE and this is the Peso Pro episodes where we talk about money management tips and peso tricks. If you're looking for personal finance discussions, you've come to the right place. A lot of people, and maybe me included, tell you sometimes that personal finance should be easy and fun. And while the channel wants to promote that kind of learning experience, the truth of the matter is personal finance can be actually very, very difficult. The reason behind this is that in a lot of cases, our logical or active brain isn't actually the one making the decisions. We all have our own biases on what we want to decide, what we actually truly want, and we tend to give in to those desires or thoughts without even thinking actively about them. A good learning that I have heard earlier in my life is actually thinking that personal finance is only about 20% logic or active thinking and 80% behavior. So today, we're gonna talk about common behaviors that can be your challenges or actual roadblocks to your financial independence journey. While all of us at some point succumb to these challenges, it's best to actually identify them and be aware of them so that the next time that we encounter them, we know how to handle, and we remind ourselves time after time that these are our natural tendencies and we have to actively think against them so that we make better decisions. If you're a personal friend of mine and we've talked about money before, I always say that maybe for the most part, we try to make our choices the responsible choice, but this is also not to say that we shouldn't indulge every now and then. Here are 6 things that are challenges to your personal finance journey that when you're aware of them and take active steps against them, you'd be definitely way better off, guaranteed. First is understanding the concept of inflation. This is probably the underlying factor as to why investments are very, very important in the first place. We'll link to that investment video right here in the card and you can check that after this one. But in inflation, this is basically, in layman's terms, the rise of price of commodities year after year. Think about a kilo of rice. Basically, before, you would probably have spent maybe 20 pesos for a kilo of rice that now costs somewhere in the land of about 40 to 50 pesos over the last 10 years. That increase in price is actually called inflation, which the government actually monitors and tries to manage so that all of the prices of goods don't suddenly go up, making it very, very difficult to live. Inflation is a natural thing that will really happen, so knowing that things inflate in price year on year can be a very, very powerful thing to know, because once you know that, then you'd have better or even more compelling reasons to actually start investing and start taking money out of an envelope or in that traditional bank account where you've been keeping your money for the longest time, earning less than inflation. In the Philippines, the average inflation tends to be at around 3 to 4% with ups and downs over the last few years. Safe to say that goods in general will increase by 3% year on year, so the chicken joy you enjoy today at maybe 80 pesos will no longer be the chicken joy you will enjoy tomorrow. The price can still be at 80 pesos, but the chicken probably will be smaller. The second challenge in your personal finance journey is lifestyle inflation. For those of you who are in the workforce and have been getting salary increases over the last few years, sometimes this can be a very, very easy trap to fall into. Heck, I remember when I started working about a decade ago, when I got my salary increases, I was very tempted to actually buy more or upgrade certain things or even buy things that I didn't really need. And this is just part of our human nature. So every time you take maybe an extra pay or a salary increase, or you've created a business and you now have a side income, or worse, there is no change in your income, your lifestyle can be the reason why you are not progressing towards your finance goals. To keep this in check, What you can do is to make an honest assessment based on what your spend patterns are. So tracking your expenses can actually be a good thing, and that works for a lot of people. I personally hate to track my expenses day in, day out. So for me, what I've done is I've done the reverse. What I've done is every time I have a salary increment or an increase, what I do is I plan against that increase and automatically save a portion of that increase to my savings or investment account. What this means is, for example, if I get a salary increase of 5,000 pesos per month, what I would typically do is, because I technically was able to survive without that 5,000 pesos in the past, I put maybe 2,500 or 3,000 pesos into a savings or investment account and use the 2,000 maybe for indulgent things or maybe a new purchase of an equipment that I have been really wanting to buy. And that's okay. Striking the balance of what you need and now you can afford with that higher salary is also a good thing if you put that to good use. But being very good stewards at the start, meaning making sure that every time you increase salary, you actually put a set aside amount into savings and investments will really come a long way. It also sort of forces you to keep in check because the reason for it being automated at the start, nawawala yung pera immediately. So it sort of feels like that increase never really did happen. So you're less likely to actually spend on more things that you didn't need in the first place. Remember, my mantra always is, if nabuhay ako before without this, then why do I actually need these things now? And if there's a really valid reason as to why you would need those new things, then you can reassess and try to choose if this is the right use of your money. But in automating those savings and investments upfront and increasing them as your salary increases, that has been effective for me over the last decade. The third challenge that you will see in your personal finance journey is the fear of missing out, or FOMO. Every time you probably hear of somebody doing something, you want to be in on the action, be it an investment or maybe a latest trend of a gadget or travel or whatever you can think of. The fear of missing out is very natural for us human beings. One thing you can do to keep in check is when you fear that you're missing out, one of the steps that I personally take is trying to understand what really that thing is. Once I understand and you learn what that thing or new trend really is, you probably sometimes will just say to yourself that you really don't want to be in on the action. Or if you really want to, you can probably assess what are the other things that you can give up to be able to afford that new thing. So instead of, for example, just jumping in on the latest release of the new gadget, maybe assess how much you use a certain gadget in the past and don't buy it if you never really used that gadget in the first place. If you did, and if you find a significant value on that gadget, then maybe try to assess what are some of the other things that you can adjust so that you can still afford it within your current spend plan. The fourth challenge, and somehow related to the third one, is impulse buying. Impulse buying is probably worse than ever before because of e-commerce. Right now, the app you have on your phone is probably screaming at you of a latest sale or a promotion that seems to be the one-time only sale that you've been dreaming of, and you see a lot of these discounts on top of each other, making you feel that there's an urgency to buy. Before, impulse buying can be at a mall and you seeing something you like, going into the store and actually purchasing an item. Right now, it's even easier because with a few clicks, you can even just add that to cart and check out right away. Impulse buying can be best beaten by putting things onto a time frame. What retailers want to over-orchestrate is that sense of urgency, which means na pag nandyan ka na, what they keep telling you is that you have to do this now, you have to buy this now because the discount will go away, or you're losing out because this is the last item in the inventory or something like that. What they want you to do is to make a decision without much rational thought because the goal is for you to buy. So what you can do as the buyer is to give yourself some time. What you can do is maybe if you really like an item, add that to cart and don't check out. spend maybe a day or a couple of hours thinking, is it really worth it? What's the benefit of this? And sometimes what I tell myself is some of these sales are actually seasonal. Like they may be on sale now and it feels like they will never be on sale again, but they actually take another sale maybe later in the year. So sometimes if it's a big purchase of a want, meaning luho item that I really want to have, say for example, an automated light bulb, right? Something I really don't need but something I really want to have and it's on sale. What I typically do is I add that to cart, I research, and I spend maybe some time thinking about it and sometimes even let go of that sale and just wait for the next round of sales. If you've been in the apps that you use today long enough, you know that these sales recur, and in some cases, you actually get a better deal in waiting. Also, it helps you get rid of the kailangan mo nang magdesisyon agad mentality and gives you time to actually think rationally if you really need it or not. The fifth challenge you will encounter in your personal finance journey is being ignorant. And yes, this may be a bit harsh to say, but it's true that a lot of people don't actually want to read. And in a lot of cases, especially if it's a new product, you reading through the fine print, the website, can really go a long way. Chances are somebody in the company that is selling a product to you has already thought of brilliant ways to actually take your money away from you or actually maximize their own earnings. Remember, in the world of commerce and big business, profit is the name of the game. So, if you don't read the terms and conditions, if you don't understand what you're getting yourself into, and yet you combine this with the other challenges like FOMO or lifestyle inflation or impulse buying, then you create a recipe of disaster for your personal finance journey. Reading and trying to understand for yourself is going to be something very magical once you understand these things that are thrown at you. And these channels help you learn about those things, but reading the terms and conditions or the websites of the different products that you encounter on a daily basis will also be your first line of defense. The sixth and final challenge that I can think of is the fear of the unknown. And this is somewhat related to being ignorant, but the fear sometimes is the fear of risk and fearing based on some misconceptions, maybe about the stock market and thinking that when you enter the stock market, it's actually like a gamble that you're getting yourself into. That misconception or that fear sometimes can actually inhibit you from actually investing into the market. And a lot of cases, what you would do is just put that money in a bank because what you would have thought is that the money is safer in a bank account and that's why you ended up with that decision. And this is true for a lot of people. And I say sometimes it's not really just about being conservative. I think that's the default answer. Some cases, people are actually a bit more moderate or a bit more aggressive in their risk profiles once they understand what they're getting themselves into. I have a friend who has completely taken everything away from the stock market because she didn't understand what the stock market does or how all of these things happen. When she tried to understand that maybe in investing into an index fund and doing peso cost averaging is actually a very moderate risk kind of investment approach, especially if you're thinking long term, she actually realized that if she had not gotten away all her money from the stock market, she would have probably doubled her money in the last 5 years. Now, that's not to say that that's always the case, but in a lot of cases, the fear of something that we don't understand actually inhibits us from making the right decisions. The only thing here is to educate yourself and try to take a few minutes to learn about whatever the investment is so that you can make decisions not out of fear but out of information and actual objectives of investing so that you know what your goals are and you see investments as a way to actually deliver on those goals. Those are 6 different challenges that I can think of in personal finance, and I have personally been victim to almost all of them, and you might be too. Now, knowing about all these challenges will hopefully open your eyes, and the next time you fall trap into one of them, you know that this is a bias that we have internally among ourselves, and you're not alone. However, it shouldn't stop there. You should take steps to actually try to either learn more or stop yourself from taking impulsive decisions, or don't even really fear on missing out if you are really aware of what you're trying to get yourself into. The goal in personal finance is that you see the end objectives to be inspiring rather than scary or too big to attain. What you can do is to take these active steps along the way and build solid behaviors, and I'm sure that you will get there as long as you put the work in place. If you want more tips or information on personal finance, these two videos are very good resources. And while you're here, if you like this video, please hit the like button. It really does help the channel. And consider subscribing. It's free. And you also get notified if you hit the notification bell every time we upload new content. So click on these two videos and I'll see you right there.